Thanks for tuning in to Minds of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, and with me today I have Diana Pelenur and Daniel Uricoechea. Diana is a digital artist and a photographer, and Daniel, he is a street photographer, and if I'm not mistaken, he is self-taught, and they are both NFT artists. So Daniel and Diana, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Luis. It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. So I think the best place to get started here is to go into a little bit about your guys' background and how you got started in photography. Okay, so Diana, if you want to start first, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, ladies first.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I got started in photography later in life, actually. I had photography all around me growing up. My mother, she loved to paint, so I was very much like immersed with art. And my mother loved to photograph, and she always carried a camera around. And so I was always surrounded by photos and art, and but never really paid that much attention to it. Although I imagine that we absorb it as children. And there's a lot of like artists in my family. I have an aunt who paints and cousins, and so it was always around me. And then one day when I was here in Canada, I'd come to study. I grew up in Brazil and Uruguay, and I came to Canada to study. I picked up a camera and started just really enjoying taking photographs. And it was just a hobby for the longest time. It was just a hobby. I didn't think about it. It was mostly snapping pictures without that much kind of thought or basically that much thought. But then as time went on, I developed a passion for it. I liked it more and more. It was a place that I could go be with myself, and really photography changed my life. It changed it, giving me a space to be able to kind of be alone and stop. And I think mostly stop and look at the world, because when you have a camera, you have to stop, you observe. All of a sudden, everything was like I could see this walking around, the colors, the light, the shadows. It was almost like I'd had like this veil over my my head, and then it just like I saw the world differently. And since that day, I was like, I need to do this all the time. And so I just was really dedicating all of my free time that I had to photography. So, and I haven't looked back since. So it's been like, I don't know, 20 years, 15, 20 years that I've really just love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Daniel, what about yourself?
Luis, well, as also Diana was saying, and I see a pattern here, Diana. I've been surrounded by painters. My mom paints. She oil paints. An aunt also paints. But I used to be. I went to the Naval Academy in Colombia, and when I got my cruise, I got to travel the world when I was 18, and that's when I got my first camera and started just taking pictures of all the cities, all the countries, all the different cultures that we went through. The first country I visited was Ecuador, then Chile, Peru, then we went to Canada, to the British Columbia, to Victoria, Vancouver.
Yes.
And so it was amazing seeing all the people, all the nature that we came across the cruise. So that's when I got my first camera. It was an Olympus camera, Diana.
Nice.
I remember that because I took so many pictures. I was telling Diana that some of the films are still undeveloped and are in a table bed. I'm sorry, in a bed table, and a night table, yes, in a nightstand. And I do want to develop them now. And then I started working with few years later, and I've been working with sustainable development for more than a decade now. And I started seeing amazing places and their people and their biodiversity and the environment around them. And I bought my camera and started just documenting everything that I saw, their thriving stories, their success stories, their stories about trying to do it better. And that's what my photography is about. So it's mostly my Latin American heritage, my origins, the culture from my people. That's what everyone will see on my photography.
Awesome. So where does your guys' inspiration come from when you actually see something that you want to take a picture of? Is it just intuitive, like there isn't like any rhyme or reason that you're aware of? Or is there something in particular that you look for when you capture something? Because like Daniel, for instance, I look through your OpenSea account and your foundation, and I'm seeing, you know, a bunch of wildlife, the birds, and then I'm also seeing, you know, the Colombians, you know, I believe I like the fire breather. And then same with you, Diana, you know, I'm looking through your various accounts as well. And you have, you know, beautiful art, you know, the Miami Dreaming. I love that one. And but then you also have the Magical Forest, where it's like a snowy
My
forest.
favorite tree.
Yes, I love that one. And so like, where does your inspiration come from? Because it appears to just, it varies, it seems.
Well, I'm a very bright-sided person. I'm always trying to solve things when I see an opportunity to. And I take that also from people. So most of the work that I have now on NFTs, published as NFTs, are festivities, and mostly the Carnival of Barranquilla, which is this mingling of everyone in the street trying to express themselves, their different artistic expressions, their different backgrounds, their stories, with their costumes, with their colors. So that bright side that I have, you'll see it on my photography. Also nature. I'm always in touch with nature. I love nature, and I think I see, and this collection that I put there with OpenSea about birds is raising awareness of everything that we have there. People during the pandemic was just watching through their windows, and the news were that animals are on the streets, or there's these amazing animals just swimming in the Hudson, swimming in this bay, swimming there, and we've just neglected for so long. Nature, it's always there. Their wonders are there when we just. So this is an opportunity to raise awareness on these beautiful things that are out there, and they're important for us. So I took that opportunity of having NFTs for raising awareness.
And then what about you, Diana?
So I get inspired in the moment. So I like to take my camera and walk around, and then it just depends. It's a combination of what I'm feeling and what catches my eye. So sometimes I see it as a way to kind of show the world or show people the way I see the world. And sometimes I like to take a lot of abstract photography and have, you know, people when they look at my images to stop and think, oh, what is that? What can it be? And, you know, let people's imagination kind of imagine what they want. And I'm drawn to a lot of things. There's like some buildings that I've taken photographs that are up on my foundation, which is more architecture. Since I live in a city, I try to, you know, photograph what's around me and really kind of find the beauty in the urban. I love nature too, like the magical forest. That day, I remember I was feeling like I needed to kind of ground myself, and I went for a walk, and then I tried to really transmit that idea in my photograph. So I use it kind of a way to communicate my feelings, communicate how I see the world. But I definitely like to, like, as you said, I like to photograph a lot of different things. I'm not just like a landscape or just like a portrait. And I love that. I love that about, about being able to really just go where my heart takes me.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. That's beautiful. And like I said, you know, your guys' photographs are beautiful and
Thank you,
amazing.
Luis.
And you know, I encourage people to go check them out on, you know, OpenSea Foundation. You guys have links in your profiles, and I'll be sure to put a link in the description so that way everybody can check them out as well. Now, you know, you hear like photography is a form of storytelling. And I remember learning when I was diving into the space of NFTs about photography specifically because photography was something that revolutionized art when it first came out. A lot of people, it caused a lot of controversy because artists at that time looked at it as something that was not natural because it wasn't a human with a paintbrush or what have you, or some form of writing tool, and it was a machine with chemicals. But as time went on, it developed its own niche in, like I said, it's storytelling, but also it's capturing a memory. It's capturing a time which you can never go back to, but you can always have that picture to look back on if you had the camera or video, whatever it may be. So is there something that you guys attempt to show in your work as well, as far as I know you guys have kind of touched on it with the inspiration, but is there something that, like a story you're trying to tell or a memory that you're trying to show to the world specifically?
Well, I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, I mean, when you take a photograph, it really freezes the moment. So it is a way of capturing that precise moment and really keeping it kind of forever. And so I think that that's kind of like really like the beauty of photography. And it's interesting when you think back of the history of photography, like you were mentioning, artists in a way, even though they rejected it, they also embraced it, because a lot of artists, when they use the whole camera oscura technique, where they would, darken the room, shine the light, project kind of the shadow, and then trace to make their paintings. I mean, that's really like a photograph that they're using to base their art on. And so I think that there's just really so much power in the photograph and freezing the moment. And so that's what I really use photography for, to just capture a moment and document it, I guess you could say.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And I share that vision with Diana. We hosted a space on Tuesday. It was our first space from a series that we have with our friend Jimena Buenavida, which I encourage everyone to follow because she is the artist in this space. She was one of the first one. Diana and Jimena was one of the first one that I followed back in March, and they just opened every door for me. But I was asking each one in the audience, what were you grateful for? And my answer to my question, why am I grateful for, is coming back to our everydays now. After everything that we've been through, I know every family have been and every individual has been through a lot on this pandemic, but coming back to our everydays is just something that we didn't value before. We didn't give any worth to our everydays, and our everydays was just going for a walk, going to the movies, having some popcorn, having a coffee with a friend. So that's also what touches me, and that's what takes me to take photography. That's what moves me to take photography, our everydays, and of course, speaking a bit about the history of art, what you'll find in the caverns, in art in caverns, where they were our ancestors trying to picture what they were living their everydays, the huntings, their harvesting, their everydays were trying to be there depicted. So it's just a different expression, it's just a different medium, but I find it, for me, and I see Diana shares this vision, I'm really glad of that, but I see our everydays is something that we need to remark, we need to highlight as well.
Yeah, I really like the way you put that we need to focus on what's happening today and capturing those moments. Now, when we're talking about capturing a memory, what better way to secure, your photographs than on the blockchain? So,
Forever.
right, exactly. It's forever. It's immutable. Now, how did you two discover NFTs and crypto, or are you not interested in crypto, and was it just NFTs?
So for me, it was a combination. I've been following and reading about crypto for a while. when, you know, Bitcoin and all the ups and downs with the cryptocurrencies. And I just found it like a really fascinating world. And so I just followed it in the news. I wasn't really investing in cryptocurrencies, but I was super interested because I'm always very curious about, you know, kind of like in your YouTube, where you're really thinking of what's next, what's the future, what are we looking at? And so I've always been fascinated. And then I started hearing about NFTs, and I'm like, what the heck is that? Oh, art on the blockchain. And I was like, okay, I need to be part of this. As an artist, as a photographer, I thought, wow, this is wild. So to be honest, I followed it for a bit, and then I jumped in. I said to myself, I don't understand it. I don't know what this is. It sounds really cool, and I'm just going to do it. So I, you know, got an account, got my MetaMask, bought my first cryptocurrency, and kind of threw myself in the pool. And haven't looked back since. I mean, it's just been like the Wild West. It's been an incredible experience. And the best thing of it, not only was, you know, the whole concept behind NFTs and art, which we can talk about later, but was a community that's built around it. For me, that was like a huge surprise. I never expected it. I thought, okay, you mint something, that's it. And I've met such incredible people, like, you know, Daniel, and meeting you now through this NFT community, and everyone really supporting each other and helping, and it's like you're in this world, like, you know, everything is so new, and everybody gives you advice openly and freely, and everyone's there like cheering you on. And it's been such a wonderful surprise and a wonderful experience. So I'm thrilled.
I'm going to copy paste what Diana said. But I just want to add two things. One is that I started taking my master's in social innovation last year, and of course my experience has been in sustainable development in agricultural communities. So I started my thesis on sustainable development in agricultural communities. And then on February, I started looking for a chance to sell my photography, gigabytes of pictures that I had for years there, and documenting, as I told you, people and nature. And my best friend, he got me into Clubhouse in January. And I, for a month, had the application there, never knew what to do with it. On February, I jumped into one of these rooms, late February, I think it was early March. And then I found Jimena, and then I met Diana, this amazing woman that is here.
Thank you.
And I said, there's not much space for photography, because everything that I was seeing was just CGI 3D, digital illustration, amazing artworks. And then by the end of March, some photography started to popping up a lot. I mean, it was like gaining momentum, some astral photography. So I was just seeing everyone amazed by these astronomical pictures of the galaxy and everything around it. So I said, no, my photography and my birds, they don't have much space here. And then you started seeing collections like Alejandro Cartagena's, the Carpoolers, and then Justier Saversano, Twin Flames, and then some other collections that are amazing, and then some photography collections that are just amazing, mind-blowing. So that actually seeing Diana's work and seeing some other photographers' work, seeing NFT, Clarina is one of these also photographers, she's from Canada. I saw her photography, and also there's a space here for I think there's a space for every possible art expression here. But yes, the connections from the community are the most important things to do. And us here, it's an example of it. And I encourage everyone to first get into Twitter, into the different social networking with the mindset of growing a community, of connecting sincerely, and that's the way.
Right. And what I have found, because I've been in crypto since like 2016, but as I was sharing with you guys before we started, I discovered NFTs, I would say like around, like I would say April, around that time. And what I discovered on Twitter is that the community, in my opinion, seems to be a lot healthier and more encouraging on the NFT side of things, because it doesn't appear to be so much for the financial gain, although there still is that aspect, obviously.
Yeah.
But there appears to be more so of this helping one another grow and be the best artist they can be if they want to create an NFT. And I think that's really awesome. And it's going to help a lot of young artists be able to express themselves, and hopefully the blockchain will end that whole stigma of the starving artist, because as you rightfully said, Daniel, there's a space for everybody here. There's a niche you can carve out.
Of course. So I changed my in the middle of it, I changed my thesis from agricultural sustainable development to NFTs as an opportunity for artists from emerging regions to change their livelihoods and to have the opportunity to live from their art. So let's say from March, Diana, April to up to July, we actually, with Jimena and Diana, we grew up a lot of community just trying to onboard as many Latin American artists as we could, trying to get them approachable to the technology, inviting them to spaces, even if they were not English speakers, we will work as interpreters on those spaces. And this is the importance to building these bridges and opening these doorways. So that's something that we've done in this space.
Yeah, I think that the NFTs have given, like you said, Luis, like it's basically now artists feel, wow, I think I can earn a living from this. Whereas before it was, you had to be lucky to get, your work sold and famous and picked up by galleries. This has opened up like a whole new world where you can think, yes, I can do it. And you hear stories, right, of artists who have quit their day jobs and they're dedicating themselves to NFTs. And it's incredible, especially in emerging countries and developing countries, where before it would be almost impossible to get picked up by galleries in North America and Europe, right? And now the NFTs have like created like a small world out of a giant world. So everyone has the opportunity to be seen.
Yes.
Yes, and I completely agree. And something else that I think is really important is the decentralizing of galleries. So as opposed to having to know somebody, or I'm not really sure how it works to get into your traditional galleries, but I'm sure you have to do some sort of application or know somebody. The network is very important. With that, with the NFTs, it eliminates that. But it also provides you the social aspect that you need as an artist to build up an audience in some way, shape, or form through things like Twitter or just viewing other people's, wallets, which I think is going to be a huge thing in the future, seeing what people own in their collections and stuff like that. So do you guys foresee a huge influx of photographers and other artists embracing NFTs as a way to, showcase their work and build a career?
I do. I definitely do, 100%. I think as people start to understand it more, because now it's still a bit mysterious, and there's even friends that I have that I tell who are photographers, and I'm like, you should, look into NFTs, and they're a little bit not sure. But I think as it becomes more mainstream and people like Daniel and I are out there helping to onboard new artists, I do think, and I think it just creates, like we were mentioning, like a fantastic space to showcase your work and to have it in the online galleries on Crypto Voxels, Decentraland. There's a great group of guys that the I'm Not Art, and they have a physical NFT gallery in Chicago, which I haven't been able to go to, but they're very nice, and they have the Crypto Voxels and then the On Cyber, where you can create your own gallery, and none of it costs money, and you can collaborate with people. That's another thing in the NFT space that I think is fantastic, is how many people are able to collab.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Luis, I've seen, I'm going to speak from as an emerging as an artist from an emerging region. And I know this happens from Latin America to Southeast Asia to India, Africa. A dollar in the States is a dollar, but for us in emerging regions, a dollar is just, it represents too much. It represents a lot of, in our revenue, in our income. So I see the power of, first, the power of the universality it has. You can reach anyone. Even if they won't yet buy you, you can reach anyone. And one of the things that we encourage among artists is just retweet. If you cannot buy a fellow artist's work, retweet, share other work, because a retweet can change a life. A retweet can change a life. So we do encourage other artists to connect heartfeltly, of course. That has to be sincere connections, but just retweet, share others' work, because that's one of the ways. We were listening a testimony from an amazing Cuban artist. She said she and her whole family was got COVID, and they were sick, and she sold one NFT, and she got the chance to buy medicines for her whole family. An NFT probably saved their lives, and it was amazing to hear how what I was trying to achieve with my thesis, my master's thesis, about they are an opportunity to change life. It is real. There are still challenges. The language is a challenge because most of the market it's English speakers. Yeah. The lack of knowledge in technology, and then you have issues in security. But there are still also those challenges like in the real physical art world. Or like in the physical finance, like when your bank or your electronic banking. So there are still challenges, but the universality, the platforms are just massive. So the chances for you to speak about it, it's more than just being in an island enclosed, trying to get your work in a gallery that no one's visit now in the pandemics. Now things are getting better in terms of traveling, but let's say, for physical galleries, it's been a challenge. So it's been even more for artists.
It's very challenging. I have a small physical gallery just 2 hours north of Toronto. And I opened now at the beginning of the summer when it was just easier to, with restrictions lifted and everything. But it's hard, and you rely on the physical person physically coming and seeing the art and then deciding if they like it and what they want to buy and all of that. But you need the foot traffic. Whereas with the NFTs, it's so easy. You can go down that rabbit hole, which is a beautiful rabbit hole to go down to, because there's nothing nicer than seeing art in your feed, right? And then you can see so much. Whereas the physical gallery, which I think there's a place for physical galleries and for physical works. And I mean, a lot of artists include a physical piece with their NFTs. If they, if the buyer, the collector wants a print, then there's always that possibility to do. I think people will always want art up on their walls, but the NFTs are just a way to really see so much art that you wouldn't normally get exposed to versus a gallery. Galleries are challenging. They're great, but it's a whole different world.
And Luis, let me tell you something else about the community. Diana and myself and some other artists from Latin America, friends of us, we participated in the how it's called. It was the ARS Electronica exhibit in New York. It was curated by Vismesh. Yeah. Su Young is just this amazing promoter of artists in the NFT space, and he just put together this 4 or 5 day show, which was amazing. It was in New York. It was physical, but the opportunity to be there, to exhibit or show that I've never seen outside of Colombia for myself. It's just amazing. So, and that's the greatest and higher purpose of this community.
I agree. And those kind of shows, you don't need to send and ship a physical print. So the whole idea, it's so much, even though it's a lot of logistics and planning and everything that goes into it, you don't need to worry about, where are you going to hang all the prints. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I'm pretty excited about talking about, the just NFTs, the digital artwork, and you brought up crypto voxels and Decentraland is the galleries being made there. People
Yes.
having artwork in the metaverse, because I think that's just going to, it's going to be huge in the near future, where people are spending a good portion of their day in virtual reality, if you will. And so they're going to be wanting to make their spaces that they own or where they roam, whatever it may be, somewhat homey. And NFTs provide the option to not only potentially be physical, but also serve you in the digital world as well.
Yes.
Now, last question. And this isn't me trying to shill anything when I say this, but I know artists are going to want to know what blockchain is going to be best, because as we talked about earlier, there's Ethereum, and obviously that is, the mainstream one. Everybody knows about Ethereum. It's a good platform to build upon. It's tried and true. It's been around since 2015, I believe, somewhere along those lines. But then there's also other ones like Solana and Tezos. So for an artist coming up, do you have a recommendation as to, and I know in the space it comes across as a little like, oh, pumping my bags if you say one or the other. For a disclaimer, I don't own any of them, so I'm not personally like invested as far as the cryptocurrency goes. Now, is there one that you guys think is better for an artist to use to start off with or learn?
Do you want to take that one, Diana?
Sure, I can take it. So I have art. I have NFTs in both the Ethereum blockchain and with Tezos, with both. And I think both have a place. So I do have things, some NFTs in Nook, which is on the Tezos blockchain. And I have a lot of fun with that. I find that the Tezos is more accessible. So you don't need a lot of Tezos to mint your work. Gas fees are a few dollars. And so that creates the ability for, people, artists to easily start minting, because it's not to onboard is not that expensive. And so I find that's the advantage of the Tezos. In the actual platforms, sometimes they're not so user friendly for the beginner, like Nook, and you really need to kind of figure out, have a bit more experience to use it. But you do have Calamint, which is another big platform on Tezos, which is more user friendly. On the other hand, the Ethereum blockchain, it's more, I think, where collectors go for more. It's just, I guess, because it's been there longer, it's more established. So people maybe feel more comfortable collecting there. So I use OpenSea Foundation. I don't think there's a right answer. Everybody has their preferences, and there's pros and cons to all of them. That being said, I do love the Tezos because I can be a collector too, and I have. I buy people's art all the time on Hen, and I love it. So it gives the opportunity for the artist to mint, and then it gives us artists too opportunities to collect, and so that's our way kind of giving back to the community. Danny?
Yes,
Oh.
sorry.
It's all right.
I was going to say that yes, those are Luke and Chewbacca for everyone here. I was going to say that there's a need to understand the technology behind all this art, because there's a need to see the foundations of where all this coming from, because it's not just to see the opportunities of the market. No, where it all comes from. It's a very good thing. It's a good exercise for any artist to do. So when you ask me about crypto, I became a crypto enthusiast this year by researching on my master's thesis. As Diana said, Tezos is a great chain. It's a great chain, and it's super accessible. You'll find super experimental work out there, and it's amazing. It's a community more driven by artists itself, but from the Ethereum network, and this is not financial advice, but from the Ethereum network, one has to understand that it's been quite long there right now. it's been quite long. It's been more time developing its own economy. So I've seen the if you go to OpenSea, you can check, and if you go to applications like DAppRadar, and CryptoArt and some other statistics platforms that will show you which of the marketplaces are selling more. Just in August, OpenSea sold $3.36 billion and just for 1 week it was $1.5 billion. So the market is still on over Ethereum. Of course, the other ones are coming up, and I think they will on time mature enough to have this to have market for everyone. But I think this still plays and time to be on Ethereum.
Yeah, I definitely see a future where there's multi-chains, like multiple chains that can all work together. I think there's talk of Tezos coming on OpenSea in some way, sort of like what they did with the rare Pepes, how they were originally made on Bitcoin, but now I'm not sure how they did it exactly, but through something they were able to put it on OpenSea. Anyway, now I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. So where can people find your work and just stay up to date with everything you're doing? You guys are very active on Twitter Spaces. I hop on there every time I see you guys are in one, because I'm interested in learning what your perspective is in this space as artist. So where can people find you? Oh, you're muted.
Well, yes, we started with Diana and Jimena from this week on Tuesdays, and at almost Thursday we're going to have a lineup of spaces on Twitter. We hope to have super special guests just to teach and share their experiences on crypto and on NFT space. But we're mostly active on Twitter. We were a lot active on Clubhouse, but we've been just switching in and out. But yes, our artworks or my artwork, it's available on Foundation, OpenSea, some on Calamint, some on Hen as well. And as Diana said, the artist has to experiment, and he has to experiment everything. I've learned. That has been my journey. Learning. I screw it. Okay, there's no way. Sometimes there's no way, or your mistakes are a bit of expensive in terms of gas prices. So there's a way. There's learning. So communicate, connect, because that's the way to save a lot on gas prices or on mistakes. But yes, most of it you'll find us on Twitter.
I would say that's the best place to find me, is on Twitter, and I've got all my links there to all my work. I can always be reached. My DMs are open. So yeah. Twitter is the place to find me.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you, Daniel and Diana, for coming on the show. It's been a lot of fun talking with you guys and learning about your background and just learning more about the space in general. So I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Luis, for having us and having me. It's been it was great. I loved our chat. Thank you.
Gracias, Luis. Thank you very much. Sorry for my dogs, but
it's all good. It's all good. They add to the show.
Yeah.